when you look at it through a lens of mass killings, this is correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the 15th most deadly mass killing in U.S. history. And 5 days later, it's not even in the front page of the news. Have we become desensitized, do you think, as a society to these kinds of things?
I suppose. I mean, obviously, there's more people who have been killed by the fire, and there's still more lives that could be at risk because of it. But, it's a tragedy, and our hearts go out to anybody who's lost a loved one or a friend in these types of attacks. I'm sure the whole country suffers as a result of them.
Now, you or your organization wrote something to the effect that it's very hard for security guards, and maybe you were talking in particular California, security guards to stop a threat like this ex-Marine maniac that went into this bar in Thousand Oaks and shot it up. Were you alluding to the fact that it's very hard to get a concealed carry permit in California?
Well, I mean, there are a couple different issues there. One is security guards or police officers who are guarding any place have an incredibly difficult job. You have somebody in uniform or who is readily identifiable as a guard. If you have an attacker goes in there, they're going to be the first target because if the killer takes them out first, then they essentially have free reign to go after other people. The problem that you face in California with regard to concealed carry permits, one is there are very few permits that are issued any place in the state. Nationwide, if you remove California and New York, you have about 7.5% of the population with concealed carry permits. And, California also, concealed carry permits aren't allowed in bars.
Right.
California is one of 11 states that bans people with concealed carry permits from being able to carry their permanent concealed handguns in bars.
And the idea is a good guy with a gun could potentially stop a bad guy with a gun. But the mainstream media is out there distorting mis- and disinformation left and right on whether the United States is this killing field, if you will. The number of mass shootings in America, 1998 to 2018, according to your research, there was a spike in 2012, as you can see from the chart. But otherwise, it's been fairly steady. So the mainstream media is wrong. It is not the most violent, most deadly, and it's not on the increase.
Right. Look, mass public shootings in the rest of the world have been much greater than at a per capita rate than we have here in the United States. The United States only makes up a little bit over 1% of the mass public shooters in the world over the period from 1998 through 2015. But even more, it's increasing much faster in the rest of the world. As you say, we've been relatively flat. There's been some increase, but it's not particularly large. I mean, the rest of the world's shootings been increasing about 3 times faster over that 18-year period of time than we've had increases in the United States. So the United States is relatively safe in terms of mass public shootings, even compared to much of Europe. You look at countries like France or Norway or Finland or Russia, they have murder rates from mass public shootings that are all at least 25% higher than what we have in the United States.
And we should point out that most of those countries have strict gun controls, and they certainly don't have a Second Amendment. But let's compare then the USA to other countries. You did the numbers, and it's quite astounding. This is another spike in 2012. But essentially, if you look at the chart, the United States is down at the bottom, and the blue line and the spike are other countries. The black line is the trajectory from other countries. So the trajectory for the United States is slightly more, possibly over the past couple of decades. But the bottom line is we have a Second Amendment, and we're lower than the other countries that don't have a Second Amendment.
Right. I mean, one thing that you see in common across these attacks all around the world is that these killers may be crazy in some sense, but they're not stupid. They try to go to places where they know victims can't defend themselves. All the mass public shootings in Europe and about 98% of the mass public shootings in the United States keep on taking place in those areas where victims can't defend themselves. They know the longer it takes for somebody with a gun to arrive at the scene, the more people they're going to be able to go and kill. And, it's just not the statistics. Anybody who reads the diaries or other statements that these killers leave, knows that they are purposely picking places where victims aren't able to go and defend themselves.
And when we look at ideology and the reasons behind these shootings, the bottom line is worldwide over the past, couple, 3 decades, it is the ideology of Islam that has driven 23 of the 25 worst mass killings in world history since 1970. So it's something to consider when we talk about these gun numbers. John Lott, thanks for the research.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.